Are you ready? Are you ready? If you ain't got no money, take your bro.
Hey y'all! So it's been a while, but I promised you a baking tutorial using SeneGence products, and so today I'm going to show you just that. This video I made maybe a month ago now, and I've updated my technique just a tiny bit, but I'll kind of talk you through that as we go. Okay, so I'm starting with Porcelain Make Sense Foundation, and this is the anti-aging. I always recommend to people use anti-aging wherever you can. And I had used some as highlighter, but I'm gonna apply a really thick, liberal amount of this to my under eye area, and I want to do it in a triangle motion. Now I've already done some, but I'm doing like a second layer over all of my makeup. I've finished all of my makeup with the exception of my lip color. And I'm just adding more. I want to bulk it up, and then I want it to kind of dry. All right, so now it's set. I kind of time-lapsed forward, the magic of video, and I'm going to use my finger. You can use a beauty blender. I have my own thoughts about that, but if that's your tool, you can use that. You can use a stippling brush. You could use, I like using a damp wedge sponge, but you want to keep that triangle shape, and I'm just using my finger to kind of blend out the product. And you can see it's much thicker, it's much more concentrated now, and it's leaving that really fair, bright, almost yellowed color behind. It's not blending out like the foundation normally does because I've allowed the moisture to absorb into my skin, and so it's leaving a really thick, opaque coverage, a really solid coverage under my eye. So it's working more like a concealer, and you would do this with a concealer if you weren't using SeneGence products, but you know, there's the kids because I'm a mom and that's what happens. But so I'm just continuing with my finger to kind of fade that out. I wipe my hands on a like damp hand towel as I clean up the edges because I don't want to add more product to the edge. That way I get rid of any like super harsh lines. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's the idea. And then I'm even going to pack on a little bit more. I want it to be super bright. I want it to be super, you don't have to do this. And in fact, I'm using here a tester wand, but I have since, because I love it so much, I have since purchased a full-size Porcelain Make Sense foundation. So I just use like half a pump, and I do all of my highlighting with that half a pump now. So I don't even have to worry about the wand and that sort of thing. But so you just want it to be really thick and to be really concentrated, and it's going to look stark. It's going to look bright, and you're going to kind of freak out for a minute. I'm going to use a big brush, and I'm just, again, softening the edges a little bit because I don't want it to look like I finger painted all over my face. I'm not going to like blend it in crazy. I just want to blend the edges, soften the edges. I want to keep that gradient happening. You shouldn't see where it starts or ends, but it should dramatically brighten underneath the eye area. So, and you can see I have to take a little bit of time doing this. One of my favorite ways now, I like either my hand, like my finger, or I like that damp beauty sponge. Okay, so this is the Natural Translucid Matte Powder from SeneGence, and this is where the magic happens. So I'm unscrewing the top because I hate the brush, and SeneGence is fully aware that the bristles kind of fall out, but that is in the works. So I'm going to dump out a bunch of this powder onto, I'm using the cap of like my daytime moisturizer. I've used the back of my hand before or whatever. And I've got a brush here. And actually I have since, like I said, I updated my technique. I actually will use like the wedge sponge to apply the Make Sense foundation underneath my eye. And then I'll use it to pick up the powder also. So it's kind of like one tool all at once. But I'm going to pack this powder under my eyes really densely, and it's going to look absurd. It is not going to be blended out, and you're going to think, what is going on? You want it to be really thick. And this technique is actually, you're going to see, I just keep keep piling it on. This technique is actually brought to you by like the drag community. They do makeup really well. And they're good at getting it to stay because they perform in, doing big shows under hot lights and sweaty circumstances. And so this is the way to get your makeup to stay all day long. So basically I'm packing this powder, and you can't see quite as intensely as I can. I just keep going, but I'm packing it on there, and it's really, 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 this powder is super fine. But what it's going to do is it's going to absorb any extra oil, any extra moisture in that product. So it's going to dry it out and make it set much faster. But that powder sits on the top of the makeup and forms a barrier. And so as your skin naturally kind of gives off thermal energy and releases heat, that heat is being trapped in between that powder layer on your face. So I'm using the remainder powder that was left over just on a big powder brush to kind of set the rest of my face. I don't need it to be as thick there. Sometimes I will do this baking technique on my chin because especially if I have to, if I'm singing or something, because I rest my mic on my chin and I don't want that makeup to fade off. Alright, so apply the top, or reattach the top to the powder so you don't knock it all over the counter, because I would do that. And then you're just going to let it sit. It's going to hang out, and it's going to basically cook onto your face. And that sounds silly, but that's where we get this term baking. So I can, take some time, brush your teeth, do whatever it is you got to do, and let it just hang out. Alright, so I've finished brushing my teeth. I'm just cleaning off my lips because I'll apply my lip sense in a minute, getting all that extra makeup off of my lips. And now I'm going to remove this excess powder. So I'm just going to take a big, huge powder brush, and I'm just going to start sweeping the excess powder off of my face. And it blends itself out so nicely onto the remainder of your makeup. But that whole area is now completely set up. And literally, I have had my eyes start watering like crazy. I have been sweaty. I have all the things. This method is literally budge proof. It does not go anywhere. And so as, if you get better at it, it actually, the more you use it, the better you get at it. And it's like foolproof makeup. And then once you're done, I do recommend, sometimes I'll touch up my eyeliner. I didn't get that close, but I do want to apply extra mascara because that concealer effect that the Make Sense foundation gives, you will inevitably touch your lower lashes, and if you leave the house without touching up that bottom mascara, they look super white and it looks super funny. Alright, so what shade should you choose? Because a lot of people want to know that. You would choose a shade that's 2 to 3 shades lighter than your foundation color. And so whatever foundation color you use on a regular basis, you would use a shade 2 to 3 shades lighter to get your perfect baking shade or highlighter shade. Here I'm using some SeneGence as blush, and I do my blush after the highlight effect, because it blends out that line between the contour and the highlight so that it's not this big huge drastic difference. It kind of blends the two colors together a little bit more and kind of makes that a little bit more seamless. But so to pick your perfect shade, you would go 2 to 3 shades lighter than your current foundation shade. So I just blend that out, and you can see it really just kind of picks up and makes your under eye area bright, makes you look awake, it makes you look fresh, just kind of alive again, which is really awesome. And I gotta tell you, it's one of my favorite things now. It just stays put. You guys, as I look at this video, because it is, like I said, a couple months old, I can't even tell you how much my skin has cleared up. So get yourself some SeneGence skincare and bake away.
If you ain't got no money, think you're broke. Home you say if you